Welcome to the Deep Dive Cast. This is where we unpack the world's most impactful business and self-help bestsellers. Get ready to go beyond the pages and transform your life. Let's dive in.
Welcome along. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the world of factfulness. It's really a whole way of seeing things. Brought to us by the late Hans Rosling.
Rosling.
Quite a character, wasn't he? A data edutainer, they called him.
That's a good way to put it.
Made statistics, genuinely engaging. I mean, he even swallowed a sword on stage once, apparently.
He did. Just to make a point about data, believe it or not.
Incredible. So this deep dive, it's really about pulling out the key insights from, well, a whole stack of sources on this, helping you cut through the noise.
And what's so striking about Rosling is how he took this, let's face it, often dry data and turned it into these really compelling performances. Didn't matter if he was in a clinic in Mozambique or, at Davos.
Right.
His big mission really was fighting ignorance, making facts stick. And that's kind of what we'll unpack how he did it and maybe more importantly, what it means for how you see the world.
Okay, so let's get into it. Rosling found something pretty startling, didn't he? That most people, even like highly educated people,
Yes, experts even.
have a fundamentally wrong picture of the world.
Yeah.
His quizzes, the ones on basic global facts, people did worse than random chance.
Worse than chimpanzees guessing. It's quite something.
It really is. So the big question is, why?
Exactly why. It's clearly not about people being unintelligent.
Yeah.
Rosling argued, and I think the evidence backs this up, that our brains are sort of hardwired for drama. We latch on to negativity.
And the media reinforces that constantly.
Right, oh, absolutely. It feeds that instinct. So we end up thinking things are, well, always bad and probably getting worse.
Okay, and here's a really key point he made, one that really flips the script. This idea of the world being split. Rich countries here, poor countries there.
The gap.
The gap.
Yeah.
He showed that, actually, that gap. It doesn't really exist anymore, not like we imagine it.
Right. He talked about the old view being like a camel, two humps, the rich and the poor.
Uh-huh.
But the reality now, it's more like a dromedary, one big hump in the middle.
One big middle hump. And what does that actually mean in numbers?
Well, it means that around 75% of humanity, 3/4, are now living on middle income levels. That's roughly $2 to $32 a day.
So not extreme poverty.
Not extreme poverty, no. They're on level 2 and level 3, as he categorized it. And that's a fundamental shift in global progress that most people, frankly, haven't caught up with.
Okay, so we're generally wrong about the state of the world because of these dramatic instincts. What's the solution Rosling offered?
He called it factfulness.
Factfulness.
Yeah, he described it as a kind of relaxing thinking habit. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. It's about learning to spot and then manage 10 specific dramatic instincts that, well, distort how we see things.
Like the negativity instinct we mentioned or that gap instinct.
Precisely. Those are two big ones.
So why should you listening care about adopting this factfulness?
Well, on a personal level, it can actually reduce stress and anxiety. Seriously. When you see the world based on facts, it often looks less frightening than the dramatic version we carry around. Rosling didn't call himself an optimist, remember? He preferred possibilist.
A possibilist. I like that.
Yeah. He believed seeing things clearly based on data empowers you. It helps you make better decisions, basically.
And it's quite moving, isn't it, that he worked so hard on the Factfulness book right at the end of his life?
It really is. He knew he had terminal cancer, pancreatic cancer, and he saw the book as his final contribution, his legacy. He passed away in 2017, but the book came out afterwards.
So how can someone listening start on this path towards being more factful?
Okay, well, here's a practical first step, a challenge, if you like. Take one strong belief you hold about a global issue. Could be anything, poverty, population growth, immigration.
Okay.
And just question it. Really ask yourself, is this feeling, this belief, based on up-to-date data? Or is it maybe based on a dramatic story I heard, or perhaps outdated information? How old is this view I have?
That takes a bit of humility, I guess.
It absolutely does. Humility and curiosity. And then secondly, maybe think about consciously curating your information diet.
How do you mean?
Well, we're bombarded with negative news, right? It's everywhere. So, actively seek out sources that focus on progress or solutions. Things like positive news or the Good News Network.
But isn't that just like ignoring the bad stuff, putting your head in the sand?
Not at all. That's a common misunderstanding. Factfulness isn't about being blindly optimistic or pretending problems don't exist. It's about balance. It's recognizing that things can be both bad and better.
Bad and better.
Aqua.
At the same time.
Exactly. The world isn't black and white. Seeing the progress alongside the problems gives you a much more accurate and frankly more constructive view.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's our deep dive for today, from sword-swallowing statistics to a really quite profound way to recalibrate how we see the world.
Yeah, and maybe the challenge to leave you with is this. How might really trying to notice and challenge these dramatic instincts we all have, how might that change not just what you know about the world, but maybe how you act within it?
Something to mull over.
Definitely. Until next time. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into something pretty surprising. Did you know that highly educated professionals, I mean journalists, policymakers, even Nobel laureates, often do worse than chimpanzees on, like, basic quizzes about global trends? Seriously, lower than random guessing.
Yeah, it's a known thing. Quite startling when you first hear it.
But why? I mean, it's not like they're ignorant, right?
No, exactly. It's more subtle. It's about having a systematically wrong picture of the world. And that comes from what Hans Rosling called dramatic instincts.
Dramatic instinct. Okay, like biases.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Hardwired ways of thinking, fear, generalization, negativity that maybe helped us survive way back when. But now they kind of mess with how we interpret global data.
Gotcha. And one of the big ones is this gap instinct.
That's the one. It's this almost irresistible urge we have to divide things, split everything into two distinct groups, often conflicting ones.
Like us versus them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or rich versus poor. Or that old idea of the developed world versus the developing world. We imagine this huge gap in between.
Right, that binary split.
And it's fascinating how deep that runs and how much it skews our view. So our mission today, really, is to kind of dismantle that binary. Show how it hides the real story, how much progress is actually happening.
And how it fuels division, you said.
Yeah, it definitely does. We want to give you the tools to see the world more as it is, which is much more of a continuum, a landscape, not a chasm.
Okay, so if it's these instincts, not just lack of knowledge, how does this gap instinct actually, trip us up day to day? How does holding on to that binary view hurt?
Well, it leads to really oversimplified stories, doesn't it? Think about news headlines, for example, painting whole continents as just poor, or political debates framed like it's only two extreme sides with nothing in between.
Yeah, you see that all the time.
And that instinct, it blinds us. We miss the huge middle ground, the nuances. And crucially, we miss seeing the incredible progress that's been made globally.
So we can't find solutions because we're stuck on these made-up divides.
Pretty much. We focus on the extremes, the gap, and miss where most people actually are, or where the potential for agreement lies.
Okay, that makes sense. But it feels so divided sometimes. How do we start to, shift that perception inside our own heads?
It really starts with seeing the true picture, understanding the data. The world is just, it's far less divided than the headline suggests.
Less divided?
Yeah. That gap we imagine between, say, rich and poor countries, it's largely an illusion today. It's much more of a continuous spectrum. And thinking about it in terms of, say, 4 income levels helps massively.
4 income levels? Tell me more.
Okay, so instead of just 2 boxes, imagine 4 levels. Level 1 is extreme poverty. Level 4 is the highest income. What the data shows is this huge movement of billions of people out of level 1. Most people are now in the middle levels 2 and 3. The distribution has shifted.
Okay, so the gap is filled in.
Exactly. Most of humanity lives somewhere in the middle now.
Yeah.
And that links to this idea of global convergence.
Convergence. Right, that sounds important.
It really is.
Yeah.
It means that, on average, countries are becoming more similar. Health, income, education. Those historical gaps are generally closing, slowly but surely.
Okay, but it's not perfect, right? You hear about inequality within countries rising sometimes?
That's true, absolutely. There are complexities. We definitely see some internal divergence where inequality inside a country might increase even as it converges with others globally. And, recent events, pandemics, conflicts, they've created new headwinds, no doubt.
Okay, so complexities acknowledged, but the big picture...
The dominant trend over decades is absolutely one of movement up the income levels and convergence. Less division, more connection.
So the main takeaway here is the world isn't split in two the way we often think. That gap is mostly an illusion. It's really a spectrum, people moving along.
Right. And seeing it that way isn't about being like naively optimistic. Not at all. It's about being intellectually rigorous. It's about actively managing those dramatic instincts we talked about, using facts.
Choosing to see clearly.
Oh, it takes effort, but it's crucial.
Right. So let's make this practical. We want to leave you, our listeners, with a couple of actionable things you can try this week. First one, reframe a division. Find something this week where you see two opposing sides presented. Could be politics, could be something at work, maybe even just a family discussion. And consciously, actively look for the middle ground. Ask, where's the overlap? What do most people actually want or think? Try to find that, let's call it the middle 80%.
That's great exercise, focusing on the majority, not just the polls.
Exactly. And my second takeaway for you, look beyond averages. Next time you see a statistic that uses an average, just like average income, average cost, whatever, just pause. Ask yourself, okay, what's the distribution here? What could this average be hiding? Maybe challenge yourself just once this week. Find the median instead of the mean for some stat you care about.
The median, yes.
Yeah.
The 50th percentile often tells a much more honest story, especially when you have extreme outliers skewing the average.
Right. It cuts through the distortion.
It really does. And, these practices, they're not just about crunching numbers better. It's really about shifting your fundamental perception of the world. It empowers you, actually. Helps you find common ground, see potential solutions, instead of just feeling stuck between these, often artificial divides. It changes how you engage.
Welcome to a deep dive that might just change how you see the world around you. If you often feel like things are just, constantly getting worse, then this deep dive is definitely for you. Today, we're tackling something called the negativity instinct. We're going to explore why our brains seem hardwired to focus on the bad stuff, how that gets, amplified, and what the actual data tells us.
It's really fascinating, actually. The gap between perception and reality here is...
Yeah.
It's huge. Hans Rosling's work with the Gapminder Foundation, they found that most people, across 30 different countries, genuinely believe the world is steadily getting worse. And that feeling, that widespread pessimism, it really stems from this innate negativity instinct. It sort of programs us to see decline, even when there's clear progress happening.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. This isn't some new problem or a modern flaw, right? This is old wiring. For our ancestors, being super alert to danger, that was key to survival. Obvious, really. But that same threat detection system, maybe it's not so well suited for the complex world we live in now. What does that mean for us today?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do we recalibrate? Rosling used a really powerful metaphor. Think about a premature baby in an incubator. Is the baby's situation bad? Yes, absolutely. It's fragile. But is it improving? Also, yes, hopefully, if the monitors, the charts show things are moving in the right direction. The key thing is holding both ideas at the same time. The world can be bad. That's the current state. And better, that's the direction of change. Feeling like you have to choose one or the other. That's the trap. It's a false dichotomy. It can be both.
And wow, it really feels like this instinct is constantly being, fed, poked even. The news, for instance. That old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. It's not really a secret agenda, is it? It's just how the business often works.
Exactly. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, good news just isn't very newsy most of the time because it's often slow or it's the norm. Think about it. A peaceful election barely gets mentioned. A plane crash, that's tragically global news for weeks. And maybe more importantly, gradual improvement like child mortality, slowly falling every single year. That's not a sudden event, as it doesn't make headlines. So there's this sort of structural bias in the information we get. Plus, we fall into what you might call the nostalgia trap. We kind of romanticize the past, forgetting how tough things were, like rampant poverty, much shorter lives. And that makes today seem worse by comparison.
Okay, we've talked about perception, this instinct, the news, but what about the facts? What does the data actually show? It's kind of astonishing when you look. Let's start with something huge, like extreme poverty.
All right, so back in 1990, about 37.8% of the entire world lived in extreme poverty.
Yeah.
By 2022, that number dropped to 8.5%. That is over 1 billion people lifted out of extreme poverty in, 3 decades? The pandemic caused a bit of a setback, sure, but the long-term trend is just monumental.
Right, that's incredible. 1 billion people, it's hard to even picture. What else? What other big trends are hidden by this negativity bias?
Well, consider child mortality. This one's really powerful. In 1990, almost 13 million children died before they reached the age of 5. 12.8 million to be precise. By 2023, that number fell to 4.8 million. That means, compared to 1990, we're saving an extra 8 million children's lives every single year.
8 million. Wow.
Yeah, it's this silent miracle, right? Never makes headlines. And global life expectancy soared from around 32 years in 1900 to over 73 years by 2019. And these things aren't separate. They're all connected. Better health, less poverty, longer lives. It's a positive cycle.
Okay, this is compelling stuff. So for you listening, how can you actively fight this negativity instinct day to day? What can you actually do?
So Rosling offered some practical rules of thumb. First, mentally prepare yourself. Expect bad news. Understand that the news will often focus on the negative. It's like a mental inoculation. Second, consciously practice thinking bad and better. When you hear bad news, okay, acknowledge the problem. It's real. But then, and this is key, actively ask, what's the trend? Is this specific problem getting better or worse compared to 10, 20, 50 years ago? Look for the data. A simple exercise could be a progress journal. Just jot down one piece of positive global news or data you find each day. Or try a then versus now challenge on a specific issue, like, say, polio eradication. The progress is often staggering.
And this isn't about like putting on rose-tinted glasses or ignoring problems. It's really about clarity, isn't it? Seeing the world based on facts is actually less stressful. It allows for a kind of constructive hope, and it helps us make better decisions. It's understanding that progress is happening, maybe slowly, maybe with setbacks, but it is happening, and we can all be part of continuing that work.
Exactly. It means accepting the world isn't perfect, far from it, but also recognizing that human effort has dramatically improved it in so many ways. And that leaves us with a pretty important question, doesn't it? Now that you have maybe a clearer, more fact-based view, what problems are you motivated to help tackle? What change do you want to be part of?
Welcome to the deep dive. Ever notice how our brains seem almost hardwired to see the future in a straight line? You see a trend going up and your gut just screams, it's going to keep going up forever. But what if that powerful instinct is, well, almost always wrong? And maybe even a bit dangerous. Today, we're diving into Hans Rosling's fantastic book, Factfulness. He really takes apart this straight line instinct, as he calls it. Our mission for you today: to help upgrade your mental software. Think less simple line drawer, more sophisticated curve spotter. This should help you make, better predictions, spot hidden opportunities, linear thinking just sails past. Let's unpack it. So, this straight line instinct. It's basically our built-in assumption that past trends just continue on and on, linearly. Psychologically, it's almost like a cognitive fossil, right? From a time when life was simpler, sun up, sundown, predictable.
Exactly. But the modern world isn't like that anymore. It's complex. And that old instinct, it's often a serious mismatch now.
And you see it play out in big ways, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating how powerful it is, especially with huge global topics. Take world population growth. That's a classic.
Yeah, you see those graphs shooting upwards.
Right. And the straight line instinct immediately kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
Uncontrollable growth. We're doomed. Panic stations.
It certainly feels like that sometimes, like it just keeps going up and up.
But Rosling points out this crucial counterintuitive fact. He talks about peak child.
Peak child, what does that mean exactly?
It means the number of children in the world, age 0 to 15, has actually stopped growing. It's leveled off at around 2 billion.
2 billion, wow, so it's not accelerating.
No. The total population is still growing, yes, but that's mostly because previous large generations are aging, and thankfully people are living longer, not because we're having vastly more babies.
Ah, okay, so it's like an echo effect from the past.
Precisely. UN experts actually project the population will likely level off, around 11 billion, probably by 2100. It's a huge, slow-moving S-curve hitting its plateau.
Not a straight line rocketing off the chart.
Definitely not. And this fear, it's not new. It's basically the ghost of Thomas Malthus from the 18th century.
Right, he predicted famine because population would outstrip food.
Exactly. He projected both linearly. He couldn't imagine that food production would also grow non-linearly, thanks to, the agricultural revolution and human ingenuity. He missed the curve.
So it sounds like we really need to ditch the straight-edge ruler mentally and get familiar with some other shapes.
That's the core idea. Rosling gives us this vital new visual vocabulary, tools for seeing how trends actually unfold.
Okay, what are some of these true shapes?
Well, first, there's the S-curve. That's a classic shape for adoption of new things. Starts slow, then whoosh, explosive growth, then it levels off, plateaus.
Okay, like technology adoption.
Perfect example. Think electric vehicles. For years, EVs were, less than 1% of car sales. languishing.
Right. Felt like they'd never take off.
Then, around 2022 in the US, they hit maybe 5%, kind of tipping point. Suddenly, by 2023, global sales were nearly 18%, explosive growth phase of the S.
And companies stuck in linear thinking missed that jump.
Totally. Kodak and the digital camera,
Yeah.
RCA and the transistor, IBM initially missing the PC revolution. They projected the old line, missed the S-curve bend, and, well, ended up in the corporate graveyard.
Ouch. Okay, what other shapes are there?
Then you've got the J-curve. Rosling calls it worse before better. You see an initial dip, then a sharp recovery upwards.
Any examples?
Sometimes currency devaluation can do that, like Japan in 2013. Things might look worse briefly for trade, then exports surge. Or even sometimes disease outbreaks seem slow at first, then spread exponentially. That initial part can look like the bottom of a J.
Got it. Worse than better. What else?
The slide. This is for a quiet, gradual improvement, often overlooked because it's not dramatic.
Right.
The huge triumph over child mortality. Think about it. Back in 1800, maybe 44% of children died before age 5. Today, it's down to around 4%. A massive slide downwards.
That's incredible progress, often unreported.
Exactly. And that slide also drives lower fertility rates. Parents have fewer kids when they're confident they'll survive. It's all connected.
Okay, S-curve, J-curve, slide. Any more?
One more key one. The hump. This is where things often get worse during development, before they get better again later. A transitional challenge.
Worse during development. How so?
Think dental health. As people escape extreme poverty, they can afford sugar before good dental care or prevention becomes widespread. So cavities might increase a hump before declining later.
Or traffic accidents.
Yeah, perfect example. More people get cars before roads, safety features, and regulations fully catch up. So fatalities might rise the hump before better infrastructure brings them down.
So this linear thinking, it's not just a mental quirk. It has real costs, fuels panic, leads to bad policies.
Misguided policies, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like we saw with Kodak, it's a systematic flaw behind major business failures, big consequences.
How do we fight it then? What's the toolkit?
Rosling's core rule is simple but powerful. Remember that curves come in different shapes. Just internalize that.
Don't assume straight lines.
Exactly. Don't assume straight lines. Expand your mental toolkit, your visual vocabulary with these S-curves, J-curves, slides, humps.
And look for the turning points?
Yes. Actively hunt for inflection points. Ask, is this trend speeding up, slowing down? Is it about to bend? Where's the curve changing direction?
And understand that no trend goes on forever.
Right. There are always limits. This really connects to another bias Rosling discusses, the single perspective instinct. Just seeing the straight line and ignoring all the other possibilities, the other shapes reality might take.
Understanding these curves really feels fundamental to building a more fact-based view of the world, less panic, more understanding. So for you listening, here are a couple of challenges to try out. First one, pick a trend you follow. Could be anything: personal savings, a hobby, a tech trend. Instead of just mentally drawing that straight line forward, try sketching it. Is it starting slow like an S, dipping like a J, gradually sliding, facing a hump? Try to imagine the bend. Second challenge, next time you read a news story about a trend, actively look for the data points. Is there anything suggesting it's changing pace or direction? Don't just ask, where's this going? Ask yourself, where's the bend?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Ultimately, overcoming this straight line instinct, it's really an act of intellectual humility. It's about embracing the world's complexity, looking at things from multiple angles, seeing the curves, not just the lines.
So, what are you truly afraid of? Really think about it. Is it like a shock attack? A plane crash?
Yeah, those dramatic things often come to mind first.
But what about, say, heart disease? Or just your daily drive to work? Statistically, we live in the safest time in history. Really.
But it doesn't feel that way sometimes, does it?
Exactly. And that gap, that huge disconnect between feeling and fact, that's the fear instinct Hans Rosling talked about.
Right. Rosling had this really powerful quote. He said, critical thinking is always difficult, but it's almost impossible when we are scared. There's no room for facts when our minds are occupied by fear. So fear isn't just, an emotion. It actually shapes what we perceive. It's a filter.
A distorting filter.
Yeah.
Okay, so our mission in this deep dive is, well, first, to unpack where this fear comes from, its evolutionary roots.
Then look at what cranks it up today. Media obviously plays a huge role.
Right. Then we want to show you the actual data, the gap between what we think is risky and what is risky. And finally,
give you some practical tools, Rosling's tools, actually, to manage this instinct, to get a clearer view of the world.
let's dive in. So this fear instinct, it's not like a bug in our system, is it?
Not at all. It's more like ancient survival software.
Oh.
Evolutionary baggage, you could say. It's hardwired in us to pay extra attention to scary things. For good reason, originally.
Okay, so why is it still so twitchy?
Well, deep in the brain, there's the amygdala. Think of it as a hypersensitive smoke detector.
Okay.
Its job is to trigger fight, flight, or freeze. Fast, speed is everything. Accuracy, not so much.
So the ones who jumped at shadows survived.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Our ancestors who were, let's say, overly cautious tended to live longer than the chill ones who maybe investigated the rustle in the bushes.
Yeah.
We are kind of the descendants of the anxious. The system was perfectly tuned for immediate physical threats, predators, cliffs, that sort of thing.
All right, but now most of us, particularly in higher income countries, levels 3 and 4, as Rosling put it,
Yeah.
we don't face saber-toothed tigers daily.
Exactly. That's the modern mismatch. The immediate physical dangers have drastically reduced for billions. But the alarm system, still set to high alert.
So it gets triggered by things that aren't immediate threats.
Right. Things that are maybe abstract or statistically super rare, like a plane crash happening on the other side of the world or, a scary disease outbreak you see on TV.
And you said it acts like a biased filter. How does that work?
It instinctively flags anything dramatic, negative, or threatening as important.
Yeah.
You notice it immediately.
Okay.
But gradual positive changes, like global poverty slowly declining or child mortality rates getting better year after year, those things just don't grab our attention in the same way. They slip past the filter.
So we end up with this really skewed picture of reality.
Precisely, because the dramatic bad news gets amplified and the slow good news often gets ignored.
Which brings us to the media. People sometimes say the media just reports what's happening.
Well, yes and no. There's the old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. Sensational, shocking stories grab attention. That's the business model, partly because it taps right into our built-in fear instinct.
Huh, makes sense.
Rosling nailed it again. He said, the image of a dangerous world has never been broadcast more effectively than it is now.
Well, the world has never been less violent and more safe. Wow.
Yeah, and then there's the availability heuristic. Those vivid images, a shark attack, a terror incident, stick in our minds. They feel more common than they are because they're so easy to recall.
And the 24/7 news cycle just feeds that constantly.
Supercharges it. Along with social media algorithms, which often prioritize content that gets strong reactions, and fear is a very strong reaction, creates these echo chambers of anxiety.
Okay, let's ground this in some facts. Reality versus perception. Terrorism, for example, big fear.
Huge fear. Globally in 2019, around 20,000 deaths. Sounds like a lot, but it's about 1 in every 2,000 deaths worldwide.
Compare that to, say, heart disease or cancer.
Right. Cardiovascular diseases and cancers together. They account for roughly half of all deaths globally, every second person.
And in the U.S., the odds.
Your lifetime odds of dying from a fall. About 1 in 91. Choking on food, 1 in 2,461. An annual risk from a foreign-born terrorist attack. It's incredibly small. 1 in 4.3 million.
Wow. Okay, what about flying? People hate flying.
Yeah, but look at the U.S. in 2022. Commercial airlines. 0 fatalities.
0. And cars.
43,000 deaths in motor vehicles. You are statistically over 1,700 times more likely to die on the road than on a commercial flight.
Puts the fear of turbulence in perspective.
It really does. Your daily commute is objectively far riskier.
And it's weird how we judge personal health risks, too, right?
It is. People genuinely at high risk for things like diabetes or cancer often underestimate their chances. Like 75% of the time, they think they're less at risk than they are.
While healthy people worry more.
Exactly. Low-risk individuals often overestimate their risk for rare diseases they hear about. We fear the dramatic hypothetical shark, but maybe ignore the real everyday risks, like poor diet or not exercising.
So those lifetime odds again. Heart disease, 1 in 6. Cancer, 1 in 7. Compare that to the 1 in 4.3 million annual risk for that specific type of terrorism.
The numbers are just worlds apart.
Yeah.
So the big question is, how do we fight this instinct? How do we manage it?
What does Rosling suggest?
You get a really practical toolkit. It's all about engaging the rational brain. First strategy, calculate the risks.
Okay.
Use this formula. Risk equals danger times exposure. Fear alone is, well, it's a terrible guide. A shark attack is high danger, sure, but for most people, exposure is basically 0.
So danger isn't the whole picture. Got it. What's next?
Second, get calm before you carry on. Seriously. When you feel that fear spike, Just pause.
Don't react immediately.
Right. Your critical thinking ability just plummets when your brain thinks it's survival time. So make as few big decisions as possible until you feel calmer.
Good advice. And the third thing?
Consciously tell yourself, frightening does not equal risky. This thing is getting my attention because it's scary, not necessarily because it's actually a big, probable threat.
Right.
Separate the feeling from the fact.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's make this really practical for everyone listening. 2 key takeaways. What's the first one?
First, quantify your fears. Pick something you're worried about, maybe something you saw in the news. Go find the actual data. Use good sources like Our World in Data, Gapminder, maybe the National Safety Council or CDC in the U.S. Look up the statistical risk.
And then?
Compare it. Compare it to a mundane risk like driving or falling downstairs.
Yeah.
Just seeing that huge difference in probability can really help put the fear in perspective.
Okay, quantify the fear.
Yeah.
What's the second action?
Second, diversify your news diet. Be intentional about it. Add some slow news sources.
Like?
Follow data journalism outlets. The Upshot at the New York Times, the Guardian's data blog, the FT's visual stuff. Or just bookmark a primary source like Our World in Data and make a point to visit it, say, once a week. Look for context, long-form analysis, not just the scary headlines. Build that mental map of gradual progress.
Right. Actively seek out the less dramatic, more factual view.
Exactly.
So wrapping up, we've seen how our ancient brain wiring, the fear instinct, gets easily tricked today, especially by intense media coverage.
Yeah, but the facts, the data, they show a massive gap between what feels dangerous and what is dangerous.
The goal isn't to be fearless, right? That's not realistic.
Not at all. It's about learning to fear the right things in the right proportions, trading that constant low-level anxiety for a worldview grounded in facts.
So the challenge for you this week, try quantifying one fear, or maybe just add one data-driven source to your reading list.
You might be surprised. The world might start to look a little clearer, maybe even a bit less scary.
Join us next time for another deep dive where we'll tackle the size instinct and explore why just hearing a single number without any context can be so incredibly misleading.
That's all for this episode of the Deep Dive Cast. Thanks for joining us. We hope you gained some valuable insights. Be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive into the world's best ideas. Until then, keep learning and growing.